Good evening and welcome to the Sound Off Show. My name is Linda Kirker. I host this program and I really am thanking you for joining us tonight during this Christmas season. And first of all, I just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas next weekend, or this coming weekend. I wanted to open the program by, first of all, reading an article that was written by Gary Snyder of Colchester. It's called, What If? What if the world we live in could change? What if we could each have true, unending happiness? What if every heart's desire could be realized? What if the dignity of every human life was held sacred? What if we were all freed of our self-centeredness? What if all pride, hatred, lust, greed, envy, gluttony, and sloth could end? What if we knew that every talent and ability we have is a gift? What if we knew that every possession we own is a gift? What if we all treated the world's resources as a gift? What if we each truly loved our neighbor as we loved ourselves? What if we would share all we are, all we have? What if world poverty and hunger could end? What if all war, killing, violence of any form could end? What if world peace could really become a reality? What if God was real? What if God loved us so very much, He sent His Son to heal each of us? What if it meant His Son had to assume and perfect our human nature? What if this meant that the baby born in the manger had to die on a cross? What if Jesus' sacrifice can heal us from our sins? What if all we need to do is accept God's Christmas gift of salvation? What if all we need to do is believe and invite Jesus into our hearts? What if Jesus would then transform us into the best person we were meant to be? What if, when God looked at us, He no longer saw our old self, but only His perfect, beautiful Son? What if this means we can build the kingdom of heaven on earth? What if this means you will share Jesus' eternal life of true joy? What if? What if it's all true? It is. Merry Christmas to all. And with that, I'm going to introduce my guest, Don Tessier. Ta-da!
Linda.
Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you, too.
Merry Christmas to you.
We have a lot of blessings if only we thought more about them, huh?
That's true.
The good rather than the bad.
That's right.
So, what is your...
See, I've never had a bad day in my life.
I think that's great.
Really. I've said this to a lot of people. Some days are just better than others.
Oh, I see.
See? It's like the glass is half full or half empty.
Yeah.
Okay? It's all
That's
about it's all how you feel about things.
How you look at things. Absolutely. Well, that's a great philosophy. I'll try to remember that. Especially lately, the way things have gone. Okay, so, excuse me, what's at the top? What's hot on your list for tonight?
Well, it's something that keeps coming up, and what we need to do is, of course, in 2018, we're going to have a whole new legislature, hopefully, all right? And everybody in the audience needs to ask the person running for elected office, are they going to support a carbon tax? There's a senator in Chittenden County. His name is Chris Pearson, and I assume he's a Democrat coming out of
Yes.
Chittenden County.
He is.
He believes, okay, but the Vermont Public Interest Research Group, all right, is pushing this carbon tax, okay. Here's what they're going to be doing on the carbon tax. They're proposing at 88 cents a gallon gasoline, all right, $1.02 a gallon for home heating.
Increase?
Fuel. Yes.
Increase.
This is a carbon tax.
Excuse
88
me.
cents on propane and natural gas. And what they're trying to do is pull the wool over our eyes, and they're saying that by having this carbon tax, we're going to get rid of emissions, and we're going to be able to lower the electricity for people in the state of Vermont. And you know what that is. That's a Trojan horse that they're throwing out there. It's never going to happen. Once you get a tax in place, they never take it away. All right. And if they think that the people in Vermont are that stupid to go along with this, this is why people are leaving the state of Vermont. All right. And
One of the reasons.
I got one up here about the taxes. You know, all the people making $75,000 or more are leaving the state of Vermont for greener pastures, all right, down south where taxes aren't as bad as they are up here.
Oh, definitely. Income taxes, no state income tax in many southern states. Your property taxes are minimal compared with here. Yeah, I know. It's something many of us think about, that's for sure.
And one of the things is, you know, with this new tax bill that was passed in the House this afternoon,
In Congress,
right,
yeah.
heading to the Senate, they're going to tweak it. Then it goes back to the House. They'll tweak it, and then it goes to the President to sign. And just for everybody out there, and I know we have one Democrat listening. Not one Democrat voted for it in the United States. So guess what? Peter Walsh didn't vote for it. And I'm willing to bet you that beer again. That Leahy, I know you don't. You're a red label lady. But that Leahy and Sanders won't vote for it in the Senate, okay? And guess what's going to happen, all right? Come February, according to what they're saying, all right, you and I, okay, if we're employed, are going to get a bigger paycheck because less taxes are going to be taken out. And then this is going to be the last time in 2018 when we file our income tax the way it is. It's going to be a shorter form. All right, so everybody, they keep saying it's for the rich, but it's not for the rich, it's for the middle class workers. They always come out with the rich. And Pat Leahy,
Those evil rich,
I know,
right?
Pat Leahy, Bernie Sanders, Peter Walsh, I think are rich people.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's like calling the kettle black, all right? What's going to happen here is our taxes, right? Say I owe the federal government $1,000. 25% of that $1,000 I have to pay to the state of Vermont. So guess what? If my taxes now go down to $750
To the feds.
for the feds, and I only have to pay 25% of that, the state of Vermont is losing money.
That's true.
And guess what's going to happen?
Tell me.
If taxes are going to go up. Taxes are going to go up.
In Vermont.
And there's one thing we'll talk about a little bit later, but is they keep talking about, you know, this one thing here, Vermont better start cutting taxes and spending. Forbes says Vermont is 48th in the business client. And one thing I had here, I hope I can find it real good.
48th in...
Yeah, in business, out of 50 states.
Wow.
We're 48th.
Wow.
Because they keep saying they're friendly.
Business friendly?
We have one guy who's probably listening, paid thousands of dollars in fees to put up a building over where this TV station is going to be put to. All right?
Yep.
Needless to say, all right? This is a nonprofit, but they still had to pay thousands.
Regulations.
Regulations, right.
It's all about regulations and primarily for all this environmental business.
Right.
Okay? And now there's a project happening in the town of St. Albans, and several household properties are going to be now affected, and they're going to have to comply with certain water regulations for their own home properties. I mean, where does it end?
I don't know. I was looking for this, and I'll probably find it.
Which one?
Is that the one where...
New Hampshire?
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah. Now, this is what they're going to say down when it says here, Vermont better start cutting taxes, all right? This thing here, and you can check it if you go to the Ethan Allen Institute, says New Hampshire lowered taxes, raised revenue. All right? It's unheard of. For the year to date, the estimated it's 11 million or 1.6% ahead of schedule monies that they brought in by lowering taxes. So they can't say we can't lower taxes because of this, and this, because we need the revenue. But if you give the money back to the people, they'll spend it.
Exactly.
So I mean, this is a thing where when I saw this, New Hampshire lowers taxes and raises revenue. So I mean, I just started laughing about this. And of course, they are going to talk about the minimum wage down here as well. And I did some research, and in California, they raised the minimum wage to $15. They lost 400,000 jobs.
I believe it, because businesses are not going to tolerate government telling them how much they have to pay their employees. In the old days, you were paid according to your value to your employer, not a flat fee that everybody receives, regardless of whether you slough off and you don't do your job, and then a hardworking person who gets paid the same amount as you do covers for you, and they're going to get sick of that.
Right.
And they're going to move to, the valuable employees will move to a place, to a job where they can get paid according to their value. I think that the minimum wage is only to help the people perhaps who are not the most productive, I will say. I don't know if that's a fair assessment or not. But if you get paid according to your work effort and your dedication to the job, then you're going to want to work harder so that you can get paid more, because your employer hopefully will value you.
Have you gone to any big restaurants lately, like 99? There was another one there, where Chili's. They don't even have a waitress or a server anymore. You sit there and you sit there and you punch in what you want, and they have a person who delivers the food to you, and then you pay your bill right there
with your card.
With your card, your credit card. So what's going to happen? You know, the state of Vermont is going to try to be goody-goody, but they need to go look at what happened in California, and what's going to happen here. These companies are going to be put in robots, or people, when you go there, you're going to be ordering stuff, and it's just like when you go through a drive-through, all right? All you do is you tell them what you want, somebody in the kitchen throws it in a bag, somebody collects the money, boom, you've lost one person. So it's not going to create jobs, it's going to take jobs away from people who basically need it. Mostly these people are high school or college people trying to earn a little extra money, to pay for something that they might want. It's not adults that they're targeting. They're going to be the
low end.
The low end is going to lose it. And they're not going to have jobs.
That's where they get their experience in the work world and get a sense of earning a few bucks to help them through college or to pay for their car or whatever,
Pay for that gasoline at 88 cents a gallon more taxes. If we, with all the things we're going to talk about tonight, if we sat here and made a list of the increases that are coming about, as you mentioned, Don, about some of these fees and what New Hampshire was doing, Vermont's dwindling income, personal income tax was down. Let me see, $6 million. They expected an increase of $7 million and gained only $1 million. So they projected $6 million more than actually came in. So what is that money spent on in the state? I don't know.
Education spending, unbelievable. I know the governor just held or someone did, an education forum.
Summit, yeah.
Summit, and there were 300 people, educators there. It's clear, without any exception, that Vermont is spending way too much money on education for the number of students that we have in this state.
Well, the governor said we have too many schools, and you and I talked about this, and too less students. He is proposing something here. He wants to raise the ratio from 4 to 1, to 5 to 1. So that means what we're going to be doing is adding a teacher has to pick up one more student, so the ratio would be 5 to 1. That would cost 2,700 jobs in the educational industry.
I could be mistaken, but I think the 4 to 1 ratio is total staff to student.
Right.
And I think the student to teacher ratio is a little bit higher, like maybe 8 or 9. And yet it's still one of the few.
Apparently he's talking about all the employees in the school district.
4 to 1.
4 to 1,
right.
Raise it to 5 to 1. So that's a good point. You're going to only lose 2,700 jobs, right? And that's nothing. You realize how much money that will do? And also during this summit is next year they're proposing that they will have a statewide teachers contract for medical insurance. And that's going to save them, what was it, $26 million? Wasn't that the number? And I know it was a high number that they were going to be saving. I think it was about $26 million by making it statewide, like all the government employees, state employees, have one plan.
Right.
I think it is about.
Aren't we down to just 2 insurance providers? I know there's.
In Health Connect, you have Blue Cross Blue Shield and MVP.
Yeah.
But under this new bill, this tax bill, they've done away with the Affordable Care Act. So if you don't buy insurance, you're not going to be penalized.
Yes, that's true. I had something on that too, but I'll get to that. So the Act 46 school consolidation bill, such a mistake. Such a mistake. I'm for local control of your local school. I ran for office years ago in 1998 just because of Act 60. I just think that competition and choice in not only education but in healthcare is so critically important. And the more that things are consolidated and government run, the less choices we have, less options we have as consumers. And think about this. If someone created this atmosphere of choice, school choice, and then competition between schools, what do you think would happen? Maybe there would be rewards for schools that do better, okay? Where there would be an incentive to be the best.
Right.
For the children and for the taxpayers, for that matter, and for teachers to feel great about what they're doing. Instead of this Common Core, federally mandated mess.
I thought that Trump was going to get rid of that.
Well, I'm waiting. He's done a lot of things, okay? He's made a lot of changes and done some really good things. But, excuse me, I'm waiting to hear from Betsy DeVos, the new national chairman, Secretary of Education. She's been awfully quiet. And I'm hoping, like anything, that she's working really hard to create a new system.
Well, the teachers' unions don't like her, so she must be doing something right. When somebody doesn't like you, you must be doing something right. Because, I mean, when the teachers and the union stood up and wouldn't allow him to have a statewide program for health insurance, that showed me that they didn't care about the state of Vermont. They only cared about themselves.
Well, the union is big.
Well, that was, like I said, somebody correct. I'm going to look that up. But I know it was in the millions. It was a good number that they would.
Oh,
that
the
we would say.
27. Okay, it was 75 million.
Yeah.
Okay, that could be saved.
Right.
And the governor. Okay, then the union fought back. And okay, the governor said, we will take about, let me see, 60, 50 million or something, 50-some million, and we'll give it back to the schools so the teachers don't have any out-of-pocket health care costs.
Like you and me have.
Yeah, of course. Well, we're not part of the union, okay? And then...
Well, we're better than the union because we're taxpayers.
Yeah, exactly. Then 26 million was to be applied to reducing, I believe, reducing costs.
Okay, I know it was the cost savings things.
Yeah.
That was in there.
Cost of education.
But if it's 75 million, I mean, what's wrong? They're still going to get the health care that they're paying for. All right, but when you have the law, insurance is a thing of large numbers. If the more people you have under a plan, the better off you are, because not everybody is going to be sick. But anyways.
I have said on this program more than once that I value our educators, our teachers are the prime drivers of quality education. The better the teacher, the better the education. However, when there are so many rules and regulations, and with this Common Core and the way education is presented, it flies in the face of allowing the teachers to do the jobs that they were trained to do. And I feel badly for the teachers. I know a lot of them are not happy, and I feel badly for the taxpayers who
What are they unhappy about?
Because they went to school, they learned a certain
curriculum,
subject matter.
Yeah.
And obviously they studied that because they had a real interest in it, maybe loved it, okay?
Like science, math,
yeah, whatever.
history. Yeah,
yes,
right.
Yeah, a particular curriculum that they're excited about and they want to share with the students, okay? But now you have Common Core, and it thwarts their ability to stand up there and teach the children. I've said this before on the program too, when Common Core came into play in Vermont, one of the superintendents of schools said in the paper, no more will the teacher be the sage on stage. The knowledgeable person standing up in front of the students, in other words. Okay? They get assignments, they look them up on the computer. There's not the same kind of flow and teacher to student questions and, that the whole class was about. And if I ask a question of the teacher and we're in the same class, you hear my question, and you learn from her answer too.
We both benefit.
Exactly. And I just want to see this come back.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because, as you well know, we were probably the first schools that ever built, but but that's the way we were taught.
The one-room classroom?
Right. We were taught that. It's exactly what you said, all right? I remember taking history. First 15, 20 minutes was ours, and the rest of it was his. And you had to take notes, and he lectured on something, We had to do Constitution, had to do the states, had to do the presidents.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then we started off with the Revolutionary War. I mean, and what the U.S. history was all about.
Absolutely.
Right up into Vietnam.
That was my favorite subject ever.
Yeah.
Mr. Hunter was our 8th grade U.S. history teacher, and I still have my folder with all my handwritten notes in it. I'll bring it in one night and show that I'm sharing the truth here. the teacher, in the case that we're talking about, where they stand up in front of the class and share the excitement of the information that they have, they need to be sort of a, not an actor or actress, but they have to be really comfortable expressing and sharing, you know, the great stuff that they have to teach.
Right.
And it's so different today, and the outcomes that we have in our schools in Vermont are not great. You have information on that?
Well, I do have a little bit here. It says in September, the Agency of Education released the results of including 41,000 Vermont elementary, mid, and high school students. Okay, the statewide average, which is the SBAC, dropped 20 points in 2017.
Excuse me, Don.
Go ahead.
We have a caller.
Oh, okay.
Caller, welcome to the program.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
To see you two distinguished people discussing education. It's a lively topic.
Yes, it is.
You know, I'm sure you're aware. Teaching a child today is like night and day of 50 years ago or 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. You can't, if you're not in that classroom, you can't believe the condition those kids come to school in from drug-infected parents.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I agree.
You cannot understand what a teacher goes through with these kids. They're out of control. They have been taught absolutely nothing at home. The governor talks about, and he's absolutely right, not criticizing the governor, he talks about the reduction in enrollment and the cost rising. That is a real problem. I don't understand that thoroughly myself. However, I don't expect it to decrease based on the same percentage the enrollment has, because it's impossible to do that. Your school buses still run, whether you have 9 students or 10. The furnace runs. The sidewalks get snow on them. The lawns have to be mowed. It doesn't make any difference whether you got 12 kids in the classroom or 13. Those fixed costs are always going to be there. So I think it's wrong for us, the taxpayers, to think we're going to get an equal reduction in cost that corresponds with a reduction in enrollment. That's not going to happen. Let's forget that.
Jim? This is Jim, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
What about this, Jim? I can't argue with what you just said. However, I don't know about you, but when I was in school, there were 25 children in one classroom.
Yes.
With one teacher.
Can't do that today, Linda.
Well, hold on.
Not with the behavior of these kids.
Hold on. I would, if I were queen, which we all know I'm not, I would look at this situation as wanting to give the best to every student and get the best from them.
We all do.
And in order to do that, I would have the children tested, and I would have them in classrooms based on their desire to learn, their knowledge base, their behavior. And so those who really want to learn and are working hard would be in certain classes, maybe different ages in the same class, not a great age discrepancy, but so...
Well, they used to have that. They had exactly that when I was in school, and I think Jim as well, but they mainstream everybody now.
I know, that's a problem.
That's right, that's the problem.
And
that's
so,
what they did, because they had higher grades up advanced. Some people were taking college stuff.
yes.
Okay, in 9th and 10th and 11th grade.
Some people would not like to hear this, I'm sure, but I would evaluate each child's potential, have experts do that, and then I would place them in a school based on their ability to learn. with
ACLU is going to come put you in jail.
I know. With educators, special educators, who can pull the best from them.
But that's one of the reasons, Linda, the costs have risen so.
Right.
You're talking about one of the reasons why we have high costs.
Right.
Special education is very, very expensive and needs to be, we need to have it. We have to treat these children, of course, as well as the others. But it's extremely expensive and disruptive to the rest of the kids in the classroom.
Exactly. So why not have a special school for special needs children?
Well, why not? But I'm saying we don't have that. We're talking about today.
Well, Brandon used to be that school.
Right. But we're talking about possible solutions.
Linda, I can't disagree with you more. Or I should say I agree with you.
Okay.
Stand in the back of a classroom today and listen to the language of those kids, how they talk to their teachers.
Well,
Don't place a hand on that child because you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Recently, very recently, in this county, a teacher with 30 years of experience was fired, and I'm talking about recently, was fired because this child, a very young child, was throwing wooden blocks and so forth at other children's heads. And this teacher took the little girl or boy, whatever it might be, by the arms and picked it up. A photo was taken, and the teacher was fired for mishandling the student.
For trying to protect the other children.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
that's what we're up against. And every time we do some stupid thing like that, that costs money.
Well, when are the people who are paying the tab, who don't mind paying if they're getting absolutely excellent results?
Well,
when are they going to stand up and say, we've had enough? This has to change.
That's a damn good question. I agree with you. When is that going to happen? When are parents going to take the responsibility back of handling their children? And you know what? Cancel school tomorrow morning because of snow conditions. See the screaming. It comes from people who have to work. Understand that. But they've lost their babysitting service for the day if we have to cancel schools.
Right.
They're the loudest screamers. I'm telling you, and you know this better than I,
Not necessarily.
a great deal of the responsibility that should be assumed at home is being placed on the teacher's backs.
Absolutely.
And that costs money.
That is so wrong. And you know what? This is I'm a person who tries to find solutions, Jim. And one of the things that I think needs to happen is if the schools want to do something proactively that could be very positive for everybody involved in the schools, is that everyone in your community who has children, let's say, I don't know, 2, 3 years old, those parents have to go to a training about what's expected in the schools, what your job is to prepare your child for school, and if your child, the rules are, if your child acts out and disturbs the classroom, they will be removed, and you will have to come and get them until they know how to behave in the classroom.
We got to get the hand rubbers in Washington and Montpelier to think like you and I do, and like Don. Do I think we can reduce costs and should reduce costs? Of course I do. Yeah. And I believe it's achievable. But Governor Scott has got to start with that Department of Education down in Montpelier where they stumble over each other every day. The supervisory unions. Yeah. The supervisory unions have more employees. Take a look. Linda, do me a favor and find out how many employees are in this supervisory union down here.
Which one?
I don't know. Either one of them. I don't care. Swanton, St. Albans, Fairfield, whatever.
I did that once, Jim, and I went out to Swanton. I went down to St. Albans. I went down to Georgia, and I called up in Richford and got those numbers. and I'll get those back up for you.
Yeah,
all those supers
I watch reruns from school board meetings.
Yeah,
quite interesting.
Yeah, those. The
superintendent brings a new person with a new project to each and every meeting. It seems.
Yeah.
We have Jennifer tonight and Rosie tomorrow night and Lucille the following night presenting something new in our school. And that crap costs money.
I think
that should be the school principals and the educators in each school district. Each school, not the superintendent.
I think it's time to get back to the basics.
I do too.
Yeah.
So do I.
And
good show. Keep doing a good job, you guys.
Oh, thank you so much for checking in, and have a wonderful Christmas.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. It's always nice to have callers.
Yeah, well, he's right on the mark, no doubt about it. He's right on the mark. And that book that I have, remember I brought that book in, how much these people were making down there at the supervisory union? I mean, it's crazy, like he said. I mean, this is costly stuff. It's a lot of duplications. What's wrong with the principal and assistant principal and the teachers here at BFA, for example, where we are, running the programs for BFA? They know what's best for the students. We don't need a supervisory union. Basically what they do is an mediator for contracts and union type stuff.
Oh, we have another caller.
Okay.
Welcome to the show, caller. What's on your mind tonight?
Linda, you got to change your show to the Republican show, not the Sound Off show.
Oh, stop. I'll bet you there are a lot of Democrats out there listening who think this makes common sense.
Well, of course, I know Jimmy Fitzgerald, and, a lot of stuff he talks about, he tells the truth. I've never known him to lie, and he's very straightforward, and that's what we need in today's society.
He used to be the business manager here at BFA one time, I think.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we all agree that we want the best education, the best atmosphere for learning, the most exciting environment for the teachers to be in.
Right.
The best tools provided for our children to learn not only good behavior, but which fosters good learning, and it doesn't disrupt the others. There have to be certain rules that some things are not okay, and we can't provide a program for every single thing that somebody thinks, ought to be there.
Yeah,
we can't afford it.
Tonight I'd like to put a pointer in for my Santa Claus show because it gets more calls than any Republican or Democrat show.
Are you bragging?
We're having Santa Claus from 6 to 8. We're going to have kids on there as our little elf, and there'll be some stories that they'll be talking about. Along with Santa Claus, we'll be taking phone calls, and
what are you going to call in?
We have a good turnout.
What are you going to call in and wish for?
What am I going to wish for?
Yeah, call in.
My biggest wish is that all Democrats and Republicans get their act together and work for the people of the United States and quit being such petty fighting and all that stuff, because this world is nothing but a mess right now.
I couldn't agree more.
Our founding fathers, if they just do what our founding fathers did, there'd be a great world, because they didn't agree on everything, but they got out and compromised, and they didn't throw bad shots at each other. They worked hard and put together the greatest country in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
And the bottom line in the founding was that there is a constitution, there's a philosophy of what our country is about. And if everybody stuck to that, we would have a lot less animosity.
Right. That's the law of the land.
Exactly. But there are too many people trying to destroy that, because when you have laws and a constitution, which is a set of laws, that doesn't allow people to do just what they want to do, okay? There are rules, and some people don't want any rules. They want to create what they want to create when they want to create it.
What they do now is if they don't like the rule, they go to some judge who says, well, let me study this. And then it ends up in the Supreme Court, and it goes back to it's supposed to be there. It's too many outlets where if I don't agree on something, there should be a way for me to come to that, but it shouldn't be where I can go to a judge and and some of them, in my opinion,
Are using the legal system.
right, are beating. They're actually breaking the law. All right, because illegal people here, it's a federal law, and what's a judge in Hawaii or Washington State could not overrule the the law of the land.
I know. Well, we have a lot of things that need attention, Dave.
Yeah.
And
I want to give you an update on our billing. Our
Yes.
billing is still going forward. These contractors and engineers and architects are enough to give you a headache. The billing is enclosed. The roof is on.
Great.
All the plywood is on. The windows are covered up with plastic, and they're working inside. But now we got a problem with the truss on the which holds up the roof.
Why?
Trusses?
Why?
Well, the reason why is because whoever designed the truss, didn't put in the package that you need to put in the corner, the end pieces where they tie them in, and now every one of them, the rafters, which is I think the trusses are about, I think there's about 64 that had to be all tied in.
Well,
And when it's not in design, but all of a sudden someone's got a hiccup.
Well, you have an architect who designs, and then you have a builder who hopefully has a lot of experience building. And if that builder, if the architect made a mistake and that builder notices when they're doing the job, hey, this isn't right, then he should stop right there.
Right.
Instead of building it all wrong and then having to rebuild.
Yeah, well, we don't have to rebuild the building. Right now it's going to be, we're going to have to tie in every one of those trusses, to reinforce them.
I would ask the builder, why didn't you speak up about this?
Everybody's pointing fingers.
Yep, well, the architect also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I told them today, I wasn't very happy. And I also told them that, and they were in one of the emails that we might be fined $1,000 a day.
For what?
And, and that is off the table now because, basically, they know that it's a mistake, that is unforeseen. And we've got to correct it because this bill is going to go forward. And I says, I don't know where this was in our contract that you guys were going to fine us $1,000 a day, but I said, you're supposed to be done by March 1st. If you're not done, I said, we could institute a fine of $1,000 a day because you're already a week and a half behind.
Well,
I said, I don't want to play games. I want this building built right, and I want you guys, because we pay good money to you guys, and this is the viewers' money, that we need this studio done the way it's on the blueprint. And if we have any supplemental changes, then we'll pay the extra. That whole development up there, the water lines are supposed to have been on our side of the road. They weren't. We had to go underneath the road, and that was another $4,500.
Dave?
What?
They should fix that problem with the roofing supports at no extra charge, and I hope you didn't pay him everything up front.
No, we pay as we go, and I have to sign off on any changes and stuff like that. So, it's coming along. We're shooting for March 1st, but depends upon the weather. The weather is the biggest thing, and they're supposed to start putting the roof on as far as the tin on sometime probably next week after Christmas, and we want to start putting in all of the conduits and all of the fire alarm systems and, sheetrock and all that stuff. But overall it's coming pretty good.
Well, who is there making sure that the standards for quality are being met?
Well, we have a call a clerk of the works, and he's very good, we had interviewed 3 of them, and he came out, with the most reasonable, sometimes you can get these clerk of the works, they got about 5 people working for you, so you're going to end up paying a lot more.
Yeah, well,
This
Listen.
guy was good. You know, I just come back from the Bahamas there, and I heard that Linda Kirker had to have a piece of plywood that cost $36.
Oh, word travels fast, Dave. we won't go there.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to both of you guys.
Merry
Don,
Christ-
give me a call when you get home.
Keep up the good work, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
I think he said wanted me to give him a call. I think.
Yes, he did.
So.
When you get home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Did you have anything else?
You finish up what you're doing, but I was just going down through some of the scores for the education and stuff. And it all boils down to, like you said, in some schools, all right, because they pay more for the teachers for some reason, have better scores, you know, like Stowe, because Stowe decided that they were going to do their own because they got a lot of rich people there willing to pay all those taxes. So they run their own program basically, and their scores actually show.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, Randy Brock did a study a few years ago, and one of the small schools, was it Montgomery, had some of the best outcomes in the state.
Yeah.
And they're a small school, they don't spend a lot of money. I know Burlington spends over $20,000
Yep.
per pupil, and the state average is approximately $20,000 per pupil. It wasn't that many years ago that it was $10,000.
Yeah.
And we had 30 more thousand children.
Right.
So what's going on? Something's wrong in Denmark, and I would like to suggest that somebody outside outside of the schools and outside of government needs to do an audit on the
overview,
schools.
right. Yeah, I agree. I think Jimmy hit it a lot on the head where a lot of these children are misbehaving. But like you said, back in the day, they had a special class for them, and this mainstreaming is good to a certain point. But it's taken up. You can see some of these scores from some of these students taking these tests. The scores are going down. All right, and we're paying more money, and the scores are going down.
Right.
Some of these people, just like I said, couldn't pass that 9th grade thing to get in the National Guard. I mean, that's when you graduate from high school in 12th grade, you should be able to join to pass that test.
Well, what about school readiness?
Yeah.
What about, knowing your ABCs and your numbers to an extent before you even get to school?
Well, yes, most of my kids did because we worked with them. Their grandmother worked with them, and they were doing first grade stuff in kindergarten.
Yeah.
You know.
I know.
But it like Jimmy said, it's a lot of it's coming with the parents of these children. All they do is they don't sit down at night and go through the homework with them or anything like that. I think they feel that it's the job of the school to do it. They don't realize it's a partnership. You're supposed to help educate your child along with the teacher.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a lot of it's to do with the parents.
It's called parenting.
No, I know it. That's what they call it. And it boils down to, I remember when my son, when he was down in the city school and stuff like that, we went to the parent teachers, and some of those kids, we'd be like the only one there or other there, and there was probably 12, 15 kids in there, and we had probably 3 or 4 parents at the parent teachers. The rest of them didn't show up.
Well, I had a very bright idea several years back, and it was this. And I wrote to the person who was the head of the Agency of Human Services at the time. And I said, okay, there are a number of people in the state who are receiving benefits of all kinds on the kindness of the taxpayers. So what is their responsibility in return? Should they have to prepare their children for school and make sure that their children know how to behave? But then some parents don't know how to behave, unfortunately. But it's not just people of low income, who don't teach their children anything either. I don't want to have that thought. But if people who are receiving all kinds of support, government support, had to, and they had children, had to, as part of the deal for receiving all these benefits, had to go to training about parenting and preparing your children for school.
Right.
Wouldn't that be a great part of making things work in the schools?
And now with kindergarten, I mean these children going into first grade should fly through there with the ABCs and the numbers and all that stuff. They should be well prepared to move up a notch in first grade.
Yep.
I was lucky; my children were smarter than me, but they were always a grade ahead. But my son got college credits when he was in high school.
Wow, good for him.
Okay, but you have to spend time with them
And motivate them.
Right, and motivate them
to want to excel.
Right.
Give them jobs at home,
Yeah.
to train them with work ethic. All of these wonderful things that parents can do for their children. And so we need to make those parents understand what their
The
responsibility
old
is.
saying, if you don't have skin in the game, you don't care. And you got to get those parents to have some skin in the game.
And it's not all parents who are low income. I don't
No,
want to.
it's not. I said skin in the game.
I don't want to infer that at all.
You're right.
The impacts of Act 46, the school consolidation thing. Now, you're in favor of that, I understand. I am not.
Well, I said if we have, for example, we have 2 elementary schools in St. Albans, all right, the town and the city. If the population went down where one of them could take care of both, then we should shut one down and do that. That's what I'm talking about. Utilizing your assets. Why have 2 schools? Say they all take 200 kids. So we're going to have 100 kids in town school and 100 kids in city school. When we can consolidate those and do a better job and be cost effective. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about where you lose control. I'm just saying if the school population goes down so much.
But let the towns decide that.
The taxpayer should decide that, not the towns.
That is right. Well, I say the town, I mean the people.
Yeah, right. But most people I talk to would go along with something like that because it's not going to be detrimental to the student, because both the town and the city bus people. And back in the day, when they had all these neighborhood schools at Barlow Street, Messenger Street, Fairfield Street, Elm Street, everybody walked to school.
So did I.
Right.
Well, I walked home from
uphill
school.
Both ways, right?
Uphill on the way home, and no backpack. I was lugging all my books from high school.
I'm just saying that's when I say we need to make sure that we're getting, like for example, I said Isle of Mont. I think they have like 12 students over there. If they want to run it for 12 students, and they could go to North Hero or Alberg, which is less than 5 miles away, all right, to go to school, and those schools aren't going to be bad.
If the
people want it, but we should not give them any state aid. They should be on their own, because we could save money by sending them to either North Hero or Alberg. That's what I'm doing. Use efficiency. All right, I know what you're coming from, but when in business today, for example, if a company, say like Heinz Food, is doing something, and one of their plants isn't up to snuff, they shut it down.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. Let's say you have 100 students here in this town, you have 100 here, all right? And let's say the student-to-teacher ratio is
5 to 1.
Well, whatever, okay? One school has a 9 to 1 and the other has a 5 to 1, whatever. If that may not be accurate.
What you do is you raise it up and you do it efficiently.
Are you cutting back on staff?
You're going to close one school and all the staff's going to go on that one school.
All right, but you're adding more children to the school that has a certain staffing.
No, I was saying the school will hold 200. All right, and one goes down to 100 and the other one goes down to 100. We close one school and send them over there.
But you're doubling the number of students.
Yeah, no, you're not. I just
in
said,
one school.
Here's my example.
You won't have a fight?
Yeah. The town school, say this town school holds 200 and the city schools will hold 200.
All right.
Okay. All of a sudden, the population goes down where the town school goes down and the city school goes down. And so now you only have 100 in each school.
Okay.
All right? I say we close one school.
Okay.
And send them, because one school will hold 200, the other school we'll figure out which one's better cost-wise.
So you're assuming that the schools diminished or did not diminish their employee staff so that they could still accommodate 200 even though they were down to half the number.
Right. You would hire enough people to take care of the 200, but you wouldn't have what Jimmy's talking about, all the maintenance and heat and stuff at one school.
Oh, I understand. But it's the staffing and it's the benefits that are the big cost drivers.
I know that. And that's why the teachers really need to get skin in the game.
So would you have any fewer teachers under that scenario?
Whatever the ratio would be, I would go along with.
Yeah.
I mean,
you get a lot of resistance from the unions, I'm sure. But we're down to about 5 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
We could go on about this.
I know that.
And a lot of other things. Okay, Act 46, the School Consolidation Bill, an education reform bill, was a response to calls for property tax relief and the curbing of growth in statewide education spending. While the law was well-intentioned, it missed the mark and will have the opposite effect. Here are just some of the burdens local school boards, parents, and taxpayers will face this fall through town meeting day due to Act 46. Higher property taxes.
Right.
All right? Given the statewide nature of the property tax system, school districts that decide to preserve their local school and are effectively managed and have no inherent need for consolidation will end up paying higher property taxes to support the higher spending and tax subsidies allowed under Act 46 for school districts that merge. See, that money has to be made up somewhere. The schools that merge under this first section timeline of the Consolidation Act get 4 years, I think, of tax reductions, property tax reductions, but other communities are going to have to make that up. So basically, bigger isn't necessarily better, and large school districts are not necessarily better managed. Just look at the largest consolidated school district in the state, the city of Burlington. To find an expensive per pupil district, $20,124 per pupil, running large operational deficits and unable to hire a new school superintendent because of poorly researched work visa requirements. There's a lot more to this, but we don't really have time for it right now. But another time we will. The conclusion is Act 46 is a destructive and detrimental piece of legislation founded upon the false premise that consolidation will yield more cost-effective educational outcomes for students. We're down to the last minute.
Yeah, you're right. You're right 100%. And it boils down to here, and it had these schools named in here, and some of them you talked about. The scores are going down big time. All right, we're spending more money and get nothing back from it.
So we need to have not just the educators forum, but a big community forum.
Right.
Talking about education and property taxes. We want quality education, we want happy teachers, we want educated children, and we want it at a reasonable cost.
Yep. Amen.
Amen, man. Hey, Merry, Merry Christmas to everybody. We wish you a Merry Christmas. So just have a great time with whomever you're going to be with coming up this weekend, and God bless you, and we'll see you again soon. Good night, and again, have a blessed holiday. Merry Christmas. Good night.